Before September 11th became etched into the world's memory, there was another attack, one almost lost to history. It happened 8 years earlier, in the same towers, driven by the same hatred, aimed at the same goal, to bring them down. In 1993, a group of men carried out a plan so bold it should have changed everything. A massive bomb hidden in a van, deep beneath the World Trade Center. Their mission wasn't just destruction, it was symbolism. To strike at America's heart and send a message that would echo for decades. But when the smoke cleared, the story faded. The warnings were ignored, and what unfolded that day became the forgotten prologue to one of the darkest chapters in modern history. It's a warm February morning in Lower Manhattan as thousands of workers begin their daily commute into the towering World Trade Center complex. The year is 1993. And the Twin Towers stand as gleaming symbols of American prosperity and global commerce. Office workers clutch their coffee cups while stepping briskly across the plaza, unaware that beneath their feet, in the shadowy depths of the underground parking garage, a deadly plan is already in motion. For most New Yorkers, this Friday will begin like any other. But for a small group of determined conspirators, it marks the culmination of months of careful preparation. This is the story of America's first major terrorist attack on home soil, an attack that would foreshadow the horrors to come 8 years later, yet somehow fade from collective memory. The North Tower of the World Trade Center stretches 110 stories into the clear winter sky. Built in the early 1970s, the complex houses over 50,000 workers and welcomes nearly 200,000 visitors daily. The basement levels contain a sprawling network of shops, restaurants, and parking facilities that extend deep underground. Level B2 of the parking garage sits 6 floors below street level. It's a dimly lit concrete cavern filled with hundreds of parked cars belonging to commuters who arrive early to secure a spot. The area is monitored by security cameras, but the sheer size of the facility makes comprehensive surveillance nearly impossible. At 11:15 that morning, a yellow rental van makes its way down the concrete ramps toward the lower levels. The driver navigates carefully through the maze of parked vehicles, searching for the perfect location. He's been planning this route for weeks, studying the building's layout and identifying the most structurally vulnerable points. The van contains over 1,200 pounds of explosives packed into a crude but devastating device. Urea nitrate serves as the primary explosive, mixed with diesel fuel and aluminum powder to maximize the blast's destructive potential. The conspirators have spent months acquiring these materials through seemingly innocent purchases across multiple states. Their leader is a 25-year-old Pakistani immigrant who entered the United States on a tourist visa just months earlier. He's driven by a radical ideology that views America as an enemy of Islam. His small cell includes several accomplices, each playing a specific role in what they hope will be a spectacular attack that brings down both towers and kills thousands of innocent people. The planning began nearly a year earlier in a small apartment in Jersey City. The conspirators studied the World Trade Center's blueprints, obtained through public records and reconnaissance missions. They identified the parking garage as the optimal location for their bomb, believing that an explosion in the foundation would cause a catastrophic collapse. Their bomb-making knowledge came from training camps in Afghanistan and Pakistan, where they learned to construct improvised explosive devices using readily available materials. The group pooled their resources to rent the van and purchase the necessary components, funding their operation through a combination of personal savings and money wired from overseas supporters. As the yellow van descends deeper into the garage, the driver's heart pounds with anticipation. He knows that within minutes, his actions will forever change the New York City skyline. The parking garage's concrete walls and low ceiling will channel the explosion's force upward, amplifying its destructive power against the building's foundation. The conspirators chose this particular Friday because intelligence suggested it would maximize casualties. The lunch hour approaches, ensuring that both towers would be filled with workers and visitors. Restaurants in the underground concourse would be packed with diners, while elevators would be carrying people between floors. At 12:17 p.m., the driver parks the van in a strategic location near the building's North Tower foundation. He activates the timing device, which will detonate the massive bomb in just minutes. The mechanism is crude but reliable, designed to allow him enough time to escape the garage and flee the area. The conspirators' ultimate goal extends far beyond simple destruction. They hope their attack will serve as a rallying cry for extremists worldwide, proving that America's most iconic buildings are vulnerable to determined attackers. They envision a chain reaction that will inspire similar attacks across the country. Security personnel in the World Trade Center's command center monitor dozens of cameras and communication systems, but they have no indication of the impending disaster. The morning has proceeded normally, with only routine incidents requiring their attention. The idea that terrorists might target the building seems almost inconceivable to most Americans in 1993. As the final seconds tick away, hundreds of people go about their daily routines just floors above the hidden bomb. Office workers prepare for lunch meetings while tourists admire the view from the observation deck. None of them realize that their lives are about to change forever. The van sits motionless in the dim concrete cavern, its deadly cargo primed and ready. Above ground, the lunch crowds begin to gather in the plaza restaurants while elevator cars ferry passengers between the tower floors. The conspirators have scattered across the city, each following predetermined escape routes designed to avoid detection. At exactly 12:17 p.m., the timing device reaches zero. The explosion erupts with devastating force, sending a massive shockwave through the garage's concrete foundation. The blast creates a crater nearly 100 feet wide and several stories deep, vaporizing cars and collapsing sections of the underground structure. The sound reverberates through the building like thunder, rattling windows and shaking the massive steel framework above. In the North Tower, workers feel the building sway violently. Computer monitors crash to the floor, while ceiling tiles rain down on startled office workers. The lights flicker and then cut out completely, plunging entire floors into darkness. Emergency lighting systems struggle to activate as the building's electrical grid suffers catastrophic damage. The explosion severs critical utility lines running through the basement levels. Water mains burst, flooding the lower floors with thousands of gallons of pressurized water. Thick black smoke begins pouring upward through the building's ventilation shafts and elevator wells. Workers instinctively cover their faces with clothing and papers, struggling to breathe as visibility drops to mere feet. In the underground concourse, the scene is one of absolute chaos. The elegant shopping area transforms into a war zone as storefront windows shatter and merchandise scatters across the debris-strewn floors. Restaurant patrons dive under tables as chunks of concrete crash down from the damaged ceiling above. Workers receive no instructions about evacuation procedures, leading to confusion and panic as people struggle to find safe exit routes. Some head for the stairwells, while others crowd into elevators that may no longer be functioning properly. The explosion's impact extends far beyond the immediate blast zone. Seismic monitoring stations across the region register the shock as equivalent to a small earthquake. First responders race toward the scene as emergency calls flood the city's 911 system. Fire department units from across Manhattan converge on the World Trade Center, their sirens echoing through the narrow streets. Police officers establish perimeters, while paramedics prepare triage areas for the wounded. The Port Authority's command center becomes a hub of frantic activity as officials try to assess the full extent of the damage. Radio communications crackle with urgent reports from emergency personnel attempting to coordinate rescue efforts. Survivors begin emerging from the smoke-filled stairwells, many suffering from smoke inhalation and minor injuries sustained during the panicked evacuation. Some carry colleagues who were overcome by smoke or injured by falling debris. The conspirators monitor news reports from safe locations across the metropolitan area. Watching as their attack unfolds on television screens, they observe with satisfaction as emergency vehicles surround their target. But their hopes for total building collapse remain unfulfilled. The towers still stand, though badly damaged and filled with terrified occupants. FBI agents and federal investigators begin mobilizing even before the smoke clears. This type of explosion suggests a deliberate attack rather than an industrial accident, triggering protocols for a major terrorism investigation. The yellow rental van's vehicle identification number, etched into a piece of the axle that survived the explosion, will soon become a crucial piece of evidence. This single fragment will lead investigators directly to the rental agency and eventually to the conspirators themselves. As darkness falls over Manhattan, the true scope of the attack becomes clear. 6 people have lost their lives while over 1,000 others suffered injuries, ranging from smoke inhalation to serious trauma from falling debris. The psychological impact proves even more significant as Americans confront the reality that their homeland is vulnerable to terrorist violence. The aftermath of February 26, 1993, would reshape America's understanding of domestic security forever. Within weeks, investigators tracked down the conspirators through meticulous detective work, ultimately bringing them to justice. Yet despite the successful prosecution, the broader implications of the attack remained largely unexamined by the American public. The World Trade Center reopened within months, its damaged sections repaired and reinforced. Workers returned to their offices, while visitors once again filled the observation decks. The Twin Towers continued to dominate the Manhattan skyline, seemingly as invulnerable as before. 8 years later, when hijacked airliners struck those same towers, many Americans experienced a profound sense of déjà vu. The 1993 bombing had served as a grim preview of the vulnerabilities that would be so catastrophically exploited on September 11th. The underground attack that killed 6 and injured over 1,000 became the forgotten prologue to a much larger tragedy. Today, as we remember the heroes and victims of 9/11, we must also honor those who suffered in that dimly lit parking garage all those years earlier. Their story reminds us that vigilance against extremism requires constant attention, and that the price of freedom includes remembering not just our greatest tragedies, but also the warning signs that preceded them. The forgotten attack of 1993 stands as testament to both our resilience and our vulnerability, a sobering reminder that terror often strikes twice. If you want to uncover more of these hidden moments, the ones history almost left behind, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is just one of many stories the world was never meant to forget.